Hello, and thank you for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras here with ILTV's Morning Briefing.
Now, Israel's elections are just 2 weeks away, but the polls are still pretty much frozen, showing Likud and the blue and white parties as practically neck and neck, earning 32 and 31 Knesset seats respectively. And the complications don't end there. A closer look at the numbers shows another tie in terms of who can form a government, too. Because the Joint Arab List is looking to snag 10 seats, coming in third place, followed by Yamina at 9, United Torah Judaism with 8, and Shas and Labor and the Democratic Union each getting 7 seats. That means that for now, it looks like the right, with Netanyahu as prime minister, would take 56 seats, while the left behind Benny Gantz would take home 55. The remaining 9 seats in the Knesset then will likely go to Avigdor Lieberman's Israel Beitenu party, which is pushing for a unity government. So then what can the parties do to reinforce their sides? Well, for one, Netanyahu is looking to cut down on divisions within the right-wing vote by shortening the list of right-wing parties. For example, by vowing to adopt Moshe Feiglin's position to legalize cannabis, as well as to give Feiglin a ministry portfolio, the Zehut party has agreed to quit the race. And now it's reported that Netanyahu is similarly working on getting the hard-right Otzma Yehudit party to drop out. In return, Likud will push for legislation that would lower the electoral threshold, giving Otzma Yehudit better luck in the next vote. And other parties, like Ayelet Shaked's Yamina, agree that Otzma's abstention from the elections would be the responsible thing to do. But Otzma is denying the reports of negotiations completely and is expected to run either way in the September ballot. The media is abuzz today as Israel's Channel 13 airs recordings appearing to show Prime Minister Netanyahu confronting the communications ministry after having relinquished control and being warned not to interfere with Channels 12, 13, and the Yes Network. In the 2017 tapes, Netanyahu was heard screaming at then Communications Minister Ayub Kara to close the Cable and Satellite Broadcasting Council, which oversees cable and satellite stations in Israel. The Prime Minister also demands that Kara save the right-wing Channel 20, which lost the Knesset channel broadcasting rights earlier that year. Later, after reports of cooperation between Kara and former Justice Minister Ayelet Shaked came out, Netanyahu asks Kara, "Have you lost it?" explaining that Shaked should not get credit for the Likud-led deal. While opponents are taking swipes at the right, with former Prime Minister Barak of the New Democratic camp calling Netanyahu Israel's most corrupt prime minister. Blue and white similarly accused the prime minister of undermining freedom of the press like Erdogan does in Turkey, and the Labor Gesher party demanded investigations. But Kara, Netanyahu, and right-wing ministers are downplaying the event. Kara called the report despicable, hinting at a plot to hurt the right shown by the very fact that the phones were tapped, and a recent petition filed with the Central Elections Committee alleges the same. But Attorney General Mandelblit already ruled that the media can legally publish leaks, and for legal reasons, the most likely sources of the leaks are actually Kara or Netanyahu themselves, leading many to now demand Kara's resignation. As for Netanyahu, he's been quick to defend his actions as well, arguing that everything he did was in line with the Supreme Court's guidelines. And moreover, he says he's proud of his fighting to save Channel 20 in the interest of balancing the voices in the press. In other news, Iran is threatening to take another strong step away from the 2015 JCPOA nuclear deal if European powers cannot offer new terms by the deadline of Thursday at the end of this week. And Iranian diplomats are now traveling to France and Russia for last-minute talks aimed at averting that very situation. But primarily, the Islamic Republic is looking for a way to sell crude oil, its principal export, on the global market. This after punishing U.S. economic sanctions imposed by the Trump administration, which have gradually become harsher, have halted those sales. Also, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani indicated that it's up to the U.S. to rescind sanctions, while the other P5+1 powers must uphold the JCPOA. Otherwise, Tehran will enact its third, still undisclosed next step in breaking the agreements. But Iran is not willing to sit with the United States until all those demands are met, which is unlikely. And anyway, critics say that to agree to Iran's terms would be a grave mistake, as Iran already breached the JCPOA deal. For one, the International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed last week that Iran's stockpile of low-enriched uranium still exceeds the amount prescribed in the JCPOA. In addition, Tehran is said to be hindering IAEA inspectors at an alleged nuclear warehouse in Tehran, the very same site that Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu identified as a suspected atomic site in his address to the UN in September 2018. And unidentified diplomats told the Wall Street Journal that Iran was refusing to answer questions put to it by the IAEA as well. Also, in July, Israel's Channel 13 reported that following Netanyahu's claims, IAEA inspectors visited the site several times and removed soil samples, subsequently concluding definitively that there were traces of radioactive material there. Iran denies the reports. Then finally, Floridians are bracing for Hurricane Dorian, which is slowly inching towards them at 1 mile per hour. And it's unknown where exactly it'll land first, but Florida and the local Jewish community are already bracing for the worst. Specifically, the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County said that its offices will be closed through Tuesday. Also, in a statement on Facebook, the Federation said that it's in constant contact with other local Jewish organizations, including synagogues and other local government officials, while other local Jewish organizations closed for business include the Jacksonville Jewish Center. Luckily, though, at least Dorian has now been downgraded from a Category 5 to a Category 4 hurricane. However, that's not to say that Florida shouldn't expect significant damage and heavy rainfall. In fact, the National Hurricane Center issued hurricane and storm warnings for the entire coast of Florida and even Georgia, as the service is predicting considerable impact to coastal areas and even some damages further inland. Meanwhile, Florida is of course home to a massive Jewish population. Some 500,000 Jews live in the Sunshine State, and many plan to evacuate. But for those who are unable to flee the state, IsraAid, an Israeli nonprofit organization that helps communities in distress, said that they're ready to send in emergency relief teams if needed. And local Chabad chapters too are preparing for the worst-case scenario. They've boarded up buildings, made sure that Torah scrolls are protected, and purchased food in case disaster strikes. Also, the organization issued a statement saying that nobody should weather the storm alone and that they are happy to take in anybody in need of shelter.
That's all for now, so remember to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast.